An interesting one here as we unbox Delta 10's Black Winter starter set. This is a fairly hefty starter set for a new modern combat game from an Australian-based company called Bonza Games. Telling you the country of origin there was probably redundant. The first thing to notice with Delta 10 is that the box itself is nicely designed and of a good, firm, chunky quality, and that puts us in a positive state of mind for what might be inside. Once the lid comes off, there's quite a bit within the box, and again, it's well presented and packaged. We said that it was an interesting one at the start of the video, and that's somewhat down to the contents. This isn't perhaps what you might expect from a box starter set. It's not full of lots of hard plastic frames or loads of softer injection plastic minis. No, what's here are 12 metal multi-part miniatures, a learn to play booklet, and all kinds of other gameplay aids, but there's no actual main rulebook. Curiouser and curiouser. It is, however, worth mentioning that the full rule set is available for free in the download section of the Bonza Games website, and it's at version 1.3 at the time of this video. So, there's an A5 Learn to Play guide included, and it'll get you started. It contains all the information around recruiting your force, the basic rules, and provides 5 missions. It starts out with an intro story, the Slav defense, then onto the recruitment section, which covers the elements pertinent to your fire teams, who must stay together in formation as they do battle. Each model has an imagined volumetric space, so no matter the miniature's pose, even if it's crouching, there's a model high cylinder for line of sight considerations. There's also a volumetric template included in the game to determine the space the figure inhabits. We'll look away from the guide for a moment to talk about profiles, which come on reference cards for each member of your fire team. There's a wealth of information here: movement, initiative, shooting, close combat, wounds, weapons, and shooting modifiers for distance. Keywords that can have a game impact are listed too, and everything is nice and clear. Back to the rules, orders are assigned on a per fire team basis, determining the way that they'll act in the turn. And these consist of a move step and an action step, although some of those moves can be 0 inches. What this means is that you'll need to predetermine some elements of your model's action with incomplete information. A token sheet, produced in high quality thick card, contains a number of counters that you'll need during activation and gameplay, plus 4 order generators to assign to your fire teams. A number of the counters are marked differently on each side, giving you more options in their use, and, should you need more tokens, perhaps more than the 1 reload token provided, for example, these are also available to download. There are 2 order generators for each player, working well with the 2 fire teams per side provided. The selector clips that come and go over the top of these are a bit of a tight fit, so do be careful when attaching them. There is a possibility you could damage the cardboard. These order generators are used to give fire teams their orders, and combine with the sliders that are also provided. They also get used when rolling for scatter. Each edge is marked with a number from 2 to 9, and that might sound odd until you find out that a 1 always misses, and a 10 is a direct hit. This is nice stuff, reusing the same piece for multiple purposes, keeping your tabletop less cluttered by giving a single element lots of opportunity to be used. Back to the book, and there's a guide to the guide, which is always fun, but it is useful. It gives an idea of how the missions ahead are going to work, as well as showing the different design elements that are used throughout the book to highlight key points. Each of these gets a nice visual flair applied, and it has to be said that the whole book, and the game in general, looks really great, with very high production value. On page 6, the quick start rules begin, running through the initial setup, then getting into the game, which consists of 6 turns, and in each turn there's 3 phases. Orders and initiative describe how you choose between the engage, steady, and advance orders, then issue them, done face down to each fire team. Then, in activation, you select a fire team, reveal their order, and perform it, the movement first, then the associated actions. Should you have picked the engage order, it moves the fire team, then allows them to perform an action. Steady allows the fire team to move, but instead of performing an action, it removes a stress token from each model. And should they be out of line of sight, they can remove a second stress token. The advance order lets you move double, but no actions can be taken. Once you've done that, you might choose to take a guts check, and this will allow you to reactivate that same fire team and repeat the order. However, it will stress each model, and there's a chance it won't be successful. A roll's made against the command model's nerve value. So there's some risk and reward there. The reward of a double activation might far outweigh that risk, but that's up to you to decide. Rolls are made on a D10, and 5 of those are included in the game box. Nothing particularly special there though. Once done with an activation fully, play switches to the opposing player, and this is the core of the game. But past that, we get on to specifics. The quick start rules move to movement, then actions, a condensed section compared to the more varied options that are listed in the main rules, which would be a bad thing, but those main rules are completely free online, so in this context it just makes for an easy to get into starter game that you can then easily expand on once you've got the basics down. So there's just one action listed here in these rules: attack ranged. If you're shooting an exposed target that's fully out of cover, your roll will get a +1. Any stress on the model firing will give you a -1. The weapon rate of fire determines the number of dice rolled, and the wound deck gets a card drawn from it whenever you make a hit. These wounds will apply either a wound and stress, just stress, or they'll be a near miss, which means they do nothing. If the character being shot at takes more wounds than they have available, then it goes out of action, and when that happens it will cause stress to all other models in the fire team it belongs to. What this does is make for a game of several select tipping points, where a decisive action against just a couple of models in a fire team can have a crippling impact. The wound cards included in the game box form a common deck in the game, so you're going to be hoping for the misses to apply to you, while your opponent suffers the wounds. And it may mean that experienced gamers find themselves card counting, working out when the deck's heavily weighted with damage potential and choosing that moment to make an attack that could tip the battle. Through the basic rules, it's into the training missions. Each has a simple layout and victory conditions, with victory points awarded for all sorts, including the number of times orders have been used, which reflects the simplified nature of these rules. The tabletop's given some variety with containers, and 3 red and 3 orange container sheets are included. These need to be cut out and then glued together, and it's suggested in the book you make them sturdier. We recommend doing that too, unless you don't plan on using them much after learning the game. They do feel a little bit out of scale to the figures, who are almost as tall as the containers on their own, but they're a nice addition and really useful if you don't quite have the terrain for a postmodern skirmish game in your collection yet. More than just a mission to play, these games act as a walkthrough of how to actually play the game. The forward mission is the most basic, then regroup and recover brings in extra elements, such as reactivation, and examines fire team coherency. Surprise attack adds in new gameplay quirks, such as snapfire and overwatch, as well as rallying. Mission 4, smart stratagems, adds in the tactical cards, which let you perform high-impact actions such as clearing all stress tokens from a model, altering a wound card, or cancelling an opponent's use of a tactical guard. And there are 2 decks of tactical cards provided, 18 for each player. They come in a nice size, they're clear, they're easy to read, and once again, well produced. Finally, the incoming mission brings it all together, and this is a gradual and successful build through playing that will quickly have you using all the main rules like a veteran. The guide ends with an appendix, and you'll probably be ready to dive into the main rulebook online once you've done this. So, moving from the book, onto the minis, and very nice they are too. Each comes in its own box, well protected by some foam, and packed in individual baggies. Enough models are included here for 2 fire teams per player, along with the slotter bases you need to keep them upright. The NATO UKPF formation consists of 6 figures, 3 riflemen, medic, corporal, and a sergeant. The casts and sculpts are really nice, and these are 32mm true scale. No chunky heroics here, just very refined models. But other than the medic, the poses are a little static. Given that there's a volumetric template, it would have been preferable to have some more dynamism in the sculpts and differing heights. Opposing the UKPF are the Russian MRB, with 3 Strelok, a Pulimatechik, Commissar, and a Sergeant. These match up nicely against the UKPF, and have a little more dynamism in their poses. One thing to watch out for is that all the arms are separate, so pinning and a good glue and surface contact will be key. Not the most forgiving models for a starter set, but This is a somewhat unusual starter set, and the true scales of the figures does make this a little more tricky. Using a little green stuff or milliput will help you attach the parts more securely and hide any joins, and once built, the models look really great. So this is a rather nice set to get started. There are some parts of the game that will be familiar to players of Infinity and the Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars offerings, and it's an interesting addition to the postmodern scene. A little more dynamism in the sculpts would be appreciated. People who aren't familiar with building multi-part models like this might find it a little bit of a struggle, but we're being more picky than we might usually because the quality of sculpting itself and the really crisp finish makes us hungry for more. In addition to the starter set, we got sent some extras, so we'll do a quick whistle-stop tour of those. There's a 60 card upgrade deck, which is a cool way to add variation to your games, and the small cards come in 3 colours. Red cards are weapons, pistols, shotguns, machine guns and so on, and their stats and any special rules are noted. Some have the upgradable keyword, which is where the grey cards come in. These are the upgrades. An underbarrel grenade launcher is one of our favourites. The green cards cover other things, equipment like body armour, smoke grenades and medkits. There are also other minis, the SAS Alpha and Bravo command packs and the Spetsnaz Alpha and Bravo command packs. The SAS's 2 packs consist of a captain, corporal and 2 veterans, and the reference cards are also provided. These elites are tougher fighters, so it will be down to you to see if that extra training can overcome larger enemy numbers. The Russian equivalent of the SAS are the Spetsnaz with their funky hoop jerseys, though you can't really see them in these figures. Again, the casting is good and so is the sculpting, and one of these is a one-piece casting, which saves on some build time.
This video has been brought to you by WI Prime, Wargames Illustrated Magazine's online members club. View more videos or find out more about WI Prime by following these links.